Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm very sorry I forgot to hit go live on my software. So I've been talking for the last 25 minutes and now I have dry throat, but nobody could hear anything. So you can tell I haven't streamed in a while. I think my last live stream was May of last year. So let me introduce myself then. If you don't know me or haven't been here before, my name is Gwen, and I've been a software developer for over 7 years now, working in various types of development. I've tried a lot of different things in my career, trying to figure out what I like, what I'm good at, where I want to head in my career, and I feel like I finally settled on my likes, so that's something I'm going to talk about in this recap video as well. Yeah, sorry, Jared. I do got to read chat more often. I was wondering, well, people were mostly saying Happy New Year earlier, so I was just freely talking and talking, not realizing that nobody could hear me. So thanks for the comments earlier. Sorry it took 20-something minutes to actually go live. So what I want to talk about in this video is mostly like a recap of what's happened in the last year, what I'm doing now, and some of my reflections about things that I've learned over the last year, and then also my goals for the future and a channel update. So good morning, everyone. I'm on East Coast USA time, so it's morning for me now. It's about 9:30. And also Happy New Year, everyone. So this is my favorite day of the year. I guess it's not actually New Year's Day anymore, so it's my favorite time of the whole year, getting to reflect and make new plans. So it's just really exciting. So I guess over the last few months, I've been kind of feeling a little down about my accomplishments, feeling like I didn't do all of the things I set out to do last year, including some of the videos I wanted to create on this channel, just sharing what I've learned about software architecture and some other Python and just general topics. So I kind of felt like, I haven't done much this year. But then when I was reflecting in December, I actually realized I've done a ton this year. So, thanks, Ona. I do feel much better because this last month I have been reflecting and thinking about what I've done, and I actually realized how much I accomplished this last year. So just some of those things were, becoming a tech lead at this new role. I've been at this company for over a year, and then I got promoted to the head of engineering maybe about 5 months ago, which is really a hybrid role. So now I split my time between people management and technical leadership and some programming. And so I get a good mix of being technical plus some people management as well. I love your Django videos. Thank you. I love Django too. I'm actually working on a Django project right now. So I've been thinking about putting an updated Django video on my channel. Oh, thanks, Sebastian. Yeah, I think this year I'll be more organized with my time. So I'll talk about that in a second. But this past year, I also started working with Free Code Camp. So I've been working on a few tutorials. You might have seen the Jenkins one. I don't know if any of you are into Jenkins, but I did a deployments video for Free Code Camp, and now I'm working on a blockchain project with them. So I started officially working with them on the side. And just in general, I've read a ton of books over the last year. I feel like I've learned a ton about not just technical topics, but I also learned a lot about Agile and project management. I thought I knew Agile and project management before, just working as a developer, but actually now I realize I didn't know that much. Like my understanding was just shallow working on a dev team. And now that I help other people manage their software projects and break down tasks, I've read a lot about it. I've studied. I have practiced breaking down tasks and really thought about what's the best way to manage each project and each task. So I've learned a lot about that. And then, like I mentioned before, technical stuff like architecture. And then I got into people management books and kind of not technical, but managing software development teams, like from a manager's perspective. I read some of those books toward the end of the year. By the way, I posted my top 10 books list on my blog, which kind of has a smattering of my favorite of all the different books that I've read. And I picked out all the ones I've actually taken action items out of and implemented in my day-to-day work and my life. So, yeah, let me see. Oh yeah, good old Jenkins. There's so much to learn in project management. Yeah, and I didn't realize it before. Like I said, it's easy because I think it's easy as developers because we work in Agile every day most of the time. I'd say most developers now work in some kind of an Agile system. And because I worked in Agile for so many years, I thought I knew a lot about Agile. But really, when I started to read and study and try to figure out the best implementations, because before I was following along with standard Agile practices, but now I think much more about how and why we are doing each thing, like each ceremony, or each process, each ceremony, stuff like that. Even yesterday, I was seeing your Django Plus Vue. Oh, cool. I'm working on a side project for a nonprofit organization in Django right now. And then I'm going to finish that and then my plan is for this year, Django, Fast API, some Python frameworks up on my channel. So, but that's skipping ahead. So what I learned over the past year, I guess my dev retro or reflection, if you haven't seen people on Twitter and people in, just the internet's blogs in general, they've been posting their dev retro for 2022, like what they've done and what they've learned and what they want to do in the future. So what I've been thinking of over the past few weeks when I reflect over this year is really I can see a difference between my learning and growth in the times where I'm setting aside time to learn every day. And that's not like an epiphany, but I feel like it's something I have to keep realizing. So I'll have really good months where for month 2, 3, I'll be studying every day. And I like setting aside time in the morning. So like if I set aside an hour every single morning, block that off, at least an hour, and just study, go through a course or a book or whatever I'm studying or practicing, I'll do that. And I learn and grow so much. And then I'll get off track for a little while. And then I'll realize, what have I learned in the past month? And then I'll pick it back up. So this year I've I'm kind of dividing my time into sprints. So I'm giving myself 2 weeks to setting aside a goal or setting a goal for every 2 weeks. Like these are the things I want to accomplish in the next 2 weeks. This is what I'm going to do. These are the hours I'm going to set aside for it. So I'm trying to be more organized with my time. What book would I recommend for Agile? There's a book I think it's called, oh wait, is it Learning Agile? Let's see. Yeah, it's called Learning Agile. And let's see if I get it on Goodreads. Here it is. I can actually share my screen here. Share screen. This one. Yeah, so it's this book. I thought this was quite good at breaking down all the different flavors of Agile and giving a good overview. So if you've never read an Agile book before, I think this one is really good. And then there's other books that break down each type of Agile. Like there's a good book on extreme programming that I was reading, and there's just a ton of information everywhere about Scrum, some about Lean. I haven't found a good book about Kanban, but I found a lot of good blogs and stuff breaking Kanban down further. But the book does go into the overview of all of these. And then one thing that you'll probably understand if you have worked at a few different Agile places is that everyone has their own flavor of Agile. So most of the time people borrow some things from Kanban, some things from Scrum or XP, and borrow all these different ideas from different types of Agile and kind of put them together to make their own Agile process. Let me stop screen sharing. So can I expect some more real world Django project live streams? Yeah, that's my plan, is to be able to do more live streams. I was a little worried when I moved into this new house because I don't have fiber optic internet here, but I do have 5G internet, and it seems to be okay. Nobody said it wasn't good in the comments, so maybe I'll be able to stream from here. That would be awesome. But yeah, I love Django and a couple other Python frameworks. So I'll talk more about that at the end. And hey, Renan, or is it Renan? Congrats to your channel. I'm starting learning basic stuff about programming. I got a lot from your videos. Greeting from a little city called San Sebastian City in Brazil. Greetings, Brazil. Yeah, I actually worked with some people from Brazil. So yeah, good luck on your learning journal, and hopefully some more of my content will be helpful in the future. Yeah, so I was still talking about what I've learned this past year. And the other big thing that I've learned is what I love doing. So I've tried so many things over the last, 7, 8 years. And, I started the end of 2014. I had already been, I guess, building websites, dove into programming and stuff, but really the end of 2014 is when I got serious about programming. And that's when I started using Swift and iOS mobile app development. 2015, I really got serious into web development, and that's when I landed my first job. And since then, I've tried front end and back end, web, mobile, blockchain, some machine learning, AI, and a couple of other things. I got into different languages, different frameworks, and it's exciting learning new things. It's always fun programming, but I think I've found what I really love doing the most, and that's architecture. And it's kind of this sweet spot where you get to plan and organize, and you have so many different considerations, and you can make things correctly. And I say correctly, meaning correctly for the requirements and the stage of the company, so that they'll be able to scale. You'll be able to work in a relatively clean, maintainable code base and project. And I really love getting to take all those considerations, the balance between the high level and implementation details, especially working with kind of smaller companies like scale ups or startups. So I realized I really love doing that, whether it's blockchain or web architecture or potentially other types of architecture. But I think that's what I like doing the most. So yeah. Is it okay to stuck at a coding problem and look at a solution? It's a very, I guess that's a hard question to answer. So the first part, stuck at a coding problem. So I think this is something that new developers will get stuck at a coding problem for a long time and not be able to figure it out, and also not know when to ask help. Some of it's imposter syndrome, some of it's just not knowing the right timing to do things or when they should try to figure out versus when they should ask for help. So I think it's okay to get stuck, but over the course of your career, and I don't know where you're at with that, but you just have to learn when you have to learn the right timing for things. And this is something I think, or that I see really differentiates. This is one of the things that differentiates like a senior developer versus a junior developer. They know intuitively when to search for an answer and when to ask for help and what to ask when they ask for help. So it's okay to be stuck, but you also have to know how to get out of the problem. And looking at the solution, I think if you've tried a lot of different avenues, you've tried to figure it out, and then you look at the solution versus just looking at the solution in the beginning, you're at least learning a lot. So I don't think looking at the solution is bad. And when I used to work at coding schools, I would encourage people to at least try it as much as they can. And when they've tried for a few hours or whatever and tried a few different avenues, one of me or the teaching assistant has asked them different questions about it, helped them to step through problem solving. I don't think it's bad to look at the solution, but it has to be part of the learning process, not just cheating to get a quick answer. I don't know if that was helpful, but feel free to ask follow-up questions about that. Yeah, so the last section of this video is I want to talk about what I want to do for the next year. Of course, my theme this year is consistency. I want to be very consistent, as I mentioned before, in my learning every single day, and also in planning in 2-week increments what I want to accomplish, whether that's content-wise, building different apps or whatever it is. But there's also some new technologies I want to learn. And so one of them is called EdgeDB. So I can also share my screen here. When I build new projects or plan new projects, whether it's for myself or clients, my company, whoever, I use Postgres by default. And if I think maybe I need a NoSQL solution, I'll use something like I've used Dynamo or Mongo or some things like that in the past. But here we go. I feel like I'm lacking a little in knowing all of the different solutions that are out there for databases. So one of the things that one of my friends pointed out to me last year is this project called EdgeDB. It's called a PostSQL solution. I've seen a couple projects use that terminology, not just in SQL, but like post blockchain, post whatever solution. But I think there's a lot of good ideas here, like using GraphQL and Yeah, I can't remember all of the points because it's actually been a little while since I looked at this, but it's been on my backlog to learn for quite some time. So I think they're in beta still, but this is definitely on my list of one of the other database solutions that I'm going to dive into and build a test project for this year and see if it's maybe something I want to use. So awesome. Thanks, Barbara. All right. So let me stop sharing my screen here. So that's one thing. One of the database solutions I want to look at is EdgeDB. And then another thing, I've made some deployment videos on this channel. I mentioned before the Jenkins video I made on FreeCodeCamp. I made some AWS content here, one about DigitalOcean. I did Linode for FreeCodeCamp. So I feel like my deployment knowledge is a little bit out of date, and I don't know some of the newer tools and technologies that developers use. So I really want to upgrade my knowledge. I want to go back into AWS, come up with a new deployment process, maybe not come up with a new one, but figure out or learn about any new things there, ways I can improve my processes, how to pair them with GitHub Actions and go back into that whole rabbit hole. Because a few years ago, I feel like I knew deployments really well, and not really, really well, but pretty well. And I had pipelines with GitLab and other things, and I just had some CI scripts, and I knew Ansible, and I knew a little bit of Terraform. And now I just need to upgrade that knowledge and modernize, see what I'm missing, relearn things. So that was another goal I had for this year. Of course, I want to keep improving on the things from last year. Like I want a deeper knowledge of different architectures like microservices, and how to properly architect those solutions. And because some of them are very buzzwordy and not always implemented at the right time or for the right reasons. So I want to make sure I'm doing things correctly. So I want to learn more about those things, keep improving my people management and my interpersonal skills, which I started doing later last year. And there's a whole list of ways I want to improve with that this year. And then most interestingly, I've been building a second brain. I don't know if any of you, maybe if any of you have used Obsidian before, or Rome Research or Notion or whichever tool you use. But I basically write all these little notes, and then I make backlinks between them, and they make it so notes are discoverable, and I can easily take little notes on a topic and then see all of my other notes on that topic. If you haven't used one of these before, I highly recommend using Obsidian. Obsidian.md. Yeah. So it's this solution. Go here. And it's a free tool to use. They have a few premium features, but there's tons of community plugins too. And yeah, it works awesome. So yes, they don't have a picture of the brain view. Oh, they kind of do here. You can see how these things link to each other. Stuff is bigger versus smaller, different colors, if there's more or whatever you have related to a note. So that's basically what Obsidian is. And I've been using it for about 1.5 years. So I feel like there are some inefficiencies I have, and then it's hard to sometimes organize. Like if I want to write a script for something, I don't put that into a small note and link it to other things. I put it into a folder, but most of my notes aren't in folders, they're just linked to each other. So I want to manage and organize that a little bit better. I'm planning on taking Tiago Forte's Building a Second Brain course so I can learn some new organizational techniques. I read his book on the topic already, so Building a Second Brain. Yeah, so I'm super into Obsidian and learning how to be more productive and organized and not having scattered thoughts everywhere, like, having them in one inbox, sorting them every week, putting things where they belong, not just physically, but also digitally. So, yeah, that's a big goal I have for the year. And I'm hoping that course, I'll give you an update on how the course goes. I guess it used to be $1,500 and now it's $500, I think. So I think it's going to improve my life a lot. So I just decided I'm going to take it. So I'll let you know how it goes. And then my other goals for the year are, personal or health related. Like I'm going to start running in races again. So 5K races. If you haven't been on my Instagram, sometimes I post running pictures there, but I am a runner, but I haven't run in races in a very long time. So I think that's something that will push me to be healthier, eat healthier, exercise more, is if I sign up for races and then I have to train for them. So yeah, that's what I'm doing in the next year. So let me get caught up on comments. I wish GitHub Actions was simpler. Yeah, I feel like GitLab, their CI was a bit easier to use. GitHub Actions has a lot going on under the hood that you don't really see. But I kind of like that there's so many different plugins. Everyone can build their own plugins in a common way. So I guess, yeah, there's things I like about it and don't like about it. I wish it was simpler too, though. So how long should I stay with a new language or framework after learning it before starting to learn the next one? That's hard to answer. That depends on your goal. Yeah, and if you're working in a language or framework. I will say that it helped me a lot. I worked for a little while, a very short period of time in Angular and did a little bit of Backbone and Knockout and some mobile JavaScript development. And then I got into, React for a while. That was pre-Create React apps. So it was like, you didn't just have to learn React. It was like Webpack and all those other things. And then after that, I got into Vue.js 2017, I think, when Vue 2 was already out. So, and then when I started Python, maybe like 5 years ago, I did Web2Py and a few things like Flask, and then I got into Django, and then back into Flask and Fast API. But I think I've realized that learning a bunch of different frameworks really helps give you a well-rounded understanding about how things work, like how web development works, how the language works, how things are implemented. And now if you've tried a few frameworks, now when you see a new framework, you'll understand patterns just automatically because you have different framework experience. I think if you're going to learn one language or framework, you should learn it decently well before you move on. And that way, if you go back to it in a year, you'll still remember versus just working in it for a few weeks. So if you've built a couple projects in it, you know your way around, I think it's okay to move on to a new framework. I think one thing that's always good especially if you're starting out in development, is specializing in very few things, like having a broad understanding about the larger ecosystem and how stuff works together, and then specializing in very few things, like picking your focus. Like, oh, I'm going to focus on Django, and if I'm full stack, I'll pick a front end framework and just focus on that for a while and get really good at that instead of focusing on so many different things. And Jared's advice to you is follow your heart. Yeah. Hey, Deviter. Happy New Year. Barbara says that's awesome. Happy New Year. Agium, how do you manage your master's degree with full-time work? Is it hard? So I actually put a pause on college for a while. I finished some of the credits. It wasn't actually for my master's. I took a couple different courses that were just like certificate courses or something, but then I started finishing my bachelor's because I never finished my bachelor's. And now I'm kind of close to finishing, but it just got too overwhelming for me. So in October, I think I just put a pause on it and said I'm gonna take at least a year or two off and then go back to it, because math credits and some other credits expire. So I have 5 years to finish. So I just needed a mental break. So I'm going to take a pause and go back to it, because I am most of all trying to avoid burnout. I just want to manage my mental health and my burnout status very well. Where's my comment? I didn't delete any comments, so I'm not sure what happened. So maybe you want to make your comment again. What do I think of Web3? I love Web3. I mean, I love blockchain projects. I try to stay away from any kind of hype or investment schemes, or I guess I kind of stay away from the crypto side mostly. And I tried to just focus on the underlying technology and how it can be used in different ways and different applications. But yeah, I'm super excited about Web3. I've actually been thinking in the future I want to work on architecting blockchain projects again. So, and any books that I'm hoping to read this year? Yeah, I have a list. I'll have to post a list. I've been formulating a list. So maybe in the next week or two, I'll post my list. Of course, that continues to evolve over the year, and some books that I want to read for the first time and some books that I want to review. So I'll post a list in my Discord. So if any of you want to recommend a book to me, then send it to me. I have made some great Python scripts and would like to share with my coworkers. How can I package them up to where they may not have to download all the dependencies or know much about Python? Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, packaging them up as just an application that they can run. There are some tools, I can't think of one right now. There are some tools for Python where you can package a Python application, and that way they don't have to actually install Python. I can't remember what's the one I'm thinking of, but I'll post it in my Discord after this chat. I really don't know the answer to this question. Suggest some of the best resources to master deep Q learning. So I dove into machine learning a while back, but I really, yeah, I wouldn't have the best resources for that. I kind of have a good like high level overview of machine learning, but I'm not the best person to ask about mastering something so specific. So, um, why is the project tutorial code so much unorganized? I'm not sure what you're referring to there. What are must do in terms of tech stack in 2023? That's hard to answer because there's a ton going on in so many different tech stacks. I guess some of the languages that I'm very interested in are Golang and Rust. Golang, I know a lot of companies are looking into Golang more and more. So I'm very interested in doing some more projects in Golang. I think Rust is a very good idea. Is going to be very big, bigger than it already is. Other than that, I like a lot of the updates they're doing in Python. They're a big push to make it faster, and of course, with all the adoption in with data science and a lot of places using it for web development with some of the big frameworks, I think that's. I guess those are my 3 top languages. Of course, JavaScript is here to stay for a very long time as well. So I don't have any other details about those specifically. A self-contained, yeah, an executable file. Exactly. I have a degree in arts. Is it hard for non-CS people to get CS jobs? Should you get a certificate or CS degree? So it's definitely hard to get your first job. I went through this a long time ago. I think it's even a little bit harder now. It's not impossible. So I talk about this a lot in my book and some of my older videos where I talk about how I got my first job and how to get into development as a self-learner. A lot of it is just building out your portfolio, studying diligently, and then networking. So networking as much as you can until you get connections at different companies, you start to get interviews, and then someone will take a chance on you. So I'm not saying like in a bad way, but companies, when it's your first job and you don't have a CS degree, a lot of companies see that as a risk. So they're risking hiring someone who might not be a good programmer. They haven't been vetted, and I'm going to spend all of this money training them. So you kind of have to do a lot of upfront work on your own. As far as certificates or CS degrees, I don't think you need a CS degree. I think if you studied on your own and built projects for 4 years, you might even be better off than going and spending those 4 years in college if you're a career switcher. I think there are lots of good certificate courses. I don't think a lot of certificates are like people in the industry don't look for certain CS certifications like they do in security or some related fields. So there are some good programs that will probably look good in your resume, also give you a portfolio and help you in finding a job. One of them I really like is Udacity. If you haven't heard of it, I think their programs, I've taken 2 of them. And their programs are really high quality. I've been impressed. Actually, my roommate is taking one of their data programs right now. So they have good teachers, And a lot of their programs are actually free. So some people have GitHub repos where they put together a lot of Udacity free courses in order and structure them. Oh, if you want to learn this, these are the free courses you should take on Udacity. But then they also have these nano degrees, and the nano degrees are, in all these different subjects. So the nano degrees, they have this pathway. So you learn all of these different things. You build projects at every level. People vet your projects. They have real teachers, and they also help you with career services. So if you're looking at some kind of program to go to, I definitely recommend this over a coding school, because most coding schools charge a lot more money than Udacity charges, and I'm not convinced the outcome is much better, because the quality of the curriculum at Udacity is very high, and you don't always get the best curriculum going to other coding programs. You kind of have to be careful which coding program you go to. Hey Eli, are there any side projects I made over the holiday break? Did I? Yeah, well, I'm working with a friend. He's making an app in the music space. So we've been working together on that. We built the back end, or we are building the back end in Fast API, and the front end is in Vue.js. So it's an interesting music idea. So maybe I'll share that. But that's what I've been working on the side. A lot of what I've been working on over the break is digital declutter. I've just been cleaning up massive amounts of files and folders and projects, and kind of resetting myself. Pavana, where is nobody here? Well, it's been a year. I just went to the Discord group of yours. Okay. Yeah, I think I haven't streamed in a very long time. I posted some videos here and there last year. But yeah, I'm not sure what exactly you're referring to. What is your advice for someone who's starting in the, I'm guessing you're saying IT world in 2023? For starting in IT, so if you're talking programming specifically, I don't really have any advice for like IT repair or any of those things. But if you're talking about software or programming, then I think it's just the same advice that I've been giving for a long time, or that I put in so many chapters of my book. Yeah, maybe there's a lot to that question. So I can post a playlist from my YouTube channel. I'll post that in my Discord after. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of it is just finding I didn't mention this earlier, but finding a curriculum to follow, finding or making your own curriculum. Free Code Camp is an excellent curriculum that you can supplement with other resources. Going through the curriculum, being diligent about self-study, networking, and those types of things. But I'll post a list of videos on that topic. I think I actually have a playlist on my YouTube channel. Comparative analysis. That's a little more than I want to talk about right now. Golang is much simpler. I think I've used Golang quite a bit more than I've used Rust, because Rust, I was just going through the Rust book and trying it out a little bit. But it seems like Rust is usually used for a direct C or C++ replacement, versus Golang, which it's much simpler and faster, and seems to be um, a very good replacement for some web backends. So that's more what I've been focusing on Golang for. I've used the Gin framework and tried some other frameworks in the past. I don't think I would use Rust necessarily for a web backend. I think there can be crossover there, but I really feel like the actual projects they'll be used in are a little bit different. I'm from DevOps, can have suggestions for learning Python quickly. Learning Python quickly. So, of course, building things. There's also this site. I don't know if you've seen this site. Wait. This is. Here it is. So let me share my screen. Here it is. All right, this site, it's called Talk Python to Me. They have a ton of courses that you can buy individually or you can buy their whole package. Of course, there are YouTube programs and there are a couple websites for learning Python. But I think if you're just trying to learn quickly and you can spend a little bit of money, these courses are very well put together, structured for learning Python. And I'm not sponsored, but I did, I think for like the last 4 or 5 years, maybe 2017, I bought the Everything bundle. So I've been going through these courses for quite some time. And I've also purchased these for people on my team at my current company, people who needed to learn or upgrade their Python knowledge. So I highly recommend these courses in this site. Also, they have two really popular Python podcasts. And I was on one of them. I was on Python Bytes. So you can search for me on YouTube, Python Bytes. And I think I was talking about Django and some other Python topics there. So, yeah. While searching for a new project. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up in the next few minutes. But yeah, these 3 questions here, I'm gonna go ahead and look at. When starting a new project, should I plan in advance what classes and functions and how to implement them? Or should I take a high-level overview and start coding? Yeah, so this is something, I guess my opinion has changed over the years on this topic. I feel like the more senior I've become or the more experienced I've become, the longer I wait to start coding, or I guess the more planning I do up front. I like now when I'm planning something, I will do the high level overview, make sure I understand all of the requirements, do any back and forth necessary, and then plan the architecture down to some of the details, kind of like how I'm going to implement something, and then I'll start pseudocoding it. And then if it makes sense, and I've covered all of the requirements, then I'll start coding it. And maybe I'll go into that breakdown in a video in the future. Yeah, but I do plan those things you mentioned. I try to plan all of them up front before I start coding. And I feel like when I was a junior, I started coding very quickly. Way too quickly, without planning as much as I should have. How do you find Fast API compared to Django or Django REST framework in terms of development speed? For me, if it feels like Fast API is in between Flask and Django. It doesn't set up everything out of the box quite like Django, but it does have a lot of not just built-in features that Flask doesn't have, but also well-documented official or unofficial ways of doing things. So I find it to be not as fast in terms of development speed as Django, but pretty fast, especially now that I have boilerplates to start from. But I like them both. I like Fast API and Django for different things. Especially if I need an admin interface and some of the other features of Django, then I'll definitely use Django and Django REST framework for a project. How do you manage time between job and creating content for YouTube? What are your tips in staying productive? That's actually my next video. I'm going to do an updated productivity one. There's quite a few tools that I use for productivity. And then also some processes that I've implemented, like time blocking my day, setting aside deep focus time, blocking distractions, having those scheduled to be blocked. There's a lot of processes that I've developed over the years, and that's actually what I'm going to talk about in my next video. So I'm in the process of recording that, so stay tuned. All right, everyone. It's been almost an hour since I actually went live, and then I was talking for almost 30 minutes before that, so my voice is almost gone. But I thank you for tuning in, all of you, and I'm excited for this year, for new content, a lot of new things that I want to accomplish this year. And I hope you all are as well. And yeah, have a great day and week and year, and Happy New Year. Awesome. Yeah. And if you have any other questions, then join me in Discord and we can chat about them there. All right. Bye, everyone.